25 years after passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a law ensuring the civil and human rights for all citizens with disabilities, and more than 15 years since the Supreme Court's Olmstead decision held that unjustified segregation of persons with disabilities is a violation of the ADA, have we achieved community integration and full inclusion? The movement to close large, segregated facilities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, beginning in the 1960s in response to the deplorable conditions of public institutions and lack of community services, rested on the premise that institutions were inherently bad and community living was inherently good. Yet we've discovered that institutionalization is about more than buildings. Institutionalization is a mindset that sees and treats people with disabilities as a group rather than as individuals. It is an attitude that focuses on differences. For years, community living was code for people with intellectual disabilities not living in institutions. Today, we expect more. People living where and with whom they choose, working in real jobs with real wages, being connected to family and friends through deep personal relationships, practicing faith if and as they choose, growing through lifelong learning, exploring personal interests, experiencing physical and emotional well-being, having membership in community organizations, having choices, taking risks, and accepting the responsibilities of citizenship. Today, many people with intellectual and developmental disabilities live in their community, but they are not of their community. This is in part because of pervasive institutional attitudes that are alive and present in community group homes throughout the United States. And yet, many people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have vibrant lives where they live and participate in their communities. Following are stories of 8 people who are living the promises of the Americans with Disabilities Act in and of their communities. Donald Perkins arrived in Dalton, Georgia in the 1990s.
Everybody loves Donald. He's just a delightful man. He just has a very vibrant personality.
Well before the community living movement, Donald and his brothers were placed in an institution. Donald eventually found a new life in Dalton, where he worked for 10 years at Walmart.
I think that gave him a great sense of independence and just love and feeling like he belonged to a community.
Donald retired from Walmart. One way he stays connected to his community is through volunteering at the local Salvation Army food bank.
Donald has a lot of pride, and it's the good kind of pride, the pride that allows him to go about his life and not feel like others are in control.
Donald has many personalities, many characters. He wears a lot of different shoes.
Donald and Brad began to form this relationship based on things that they had in common and based on things that they enjoy doing.
Hired to do maintenance work at Cross Plains Community Partner, Brad was later trained as a direct support professional so he could better support Donald.
I'm gonna take your man. How about that?
When I first met Donald, he was kind of to himself. He loves the Lone Ranger. I think he gets inspiration from the show because the good guy always wins in the end.
There was a period in Donald's life when he was homeless.
He talked about how during that time in his life, he was very fearful, but he was always pushed forward by knowing that if the Lone Ranger could survive in those conditions, then so could he. Donald has been taking art classes for about a year. Every year, Cross Plains is showcased in the Gallery 111. He was so proud of his artwork and sold several pieces. He brings so much uninhibited creativity and energy that I feel like everyone can learn from. I hope to see him continue to blossom and have that confidence and not have any pain from his past.
I'm done. I'm done.
Over 30 years ago, Lucy An and her husband moved from Korea to the United States so their daughter Na-rae could have a better life.
She was always been a mother who would think that everything that could happen good would be for the other children and not for her own daughter. She felt that her daughter's disabilities were so involved that nothing could work for her. And while there has been some hurt inside her that it is not working for her daughter, she never gave up. She has a great circle of support also. Her friends are awesome. I think Lucy feels that nobody can take as good a care of her daughter as she can. I see that bond between her and her daughter. But she's just letting go now of her daughter as she's seeing that people are more welcoming to Na-rae.
At first, she was not comfortable, to let other people taking care of her daughter.
이제 한 1년도 안 됐어요. 내가 편안하게.
It's been about a year since she actually feel comfortable, by letting other people take care of her daughter while she was gone.
Slowly, Na-rae is becoming involved in her community, volunteering at a local library and at a nursing home. Last year, she began working at a supermarket, putting away returned items. Na-rae began as a volunteer and now receives a paycheck.
저는 너무 좋아요. 그리고 나래가 와가지고 저렇게 일을 하니까 저희 다른 인프로이들이
It's been so good to see that change happen not just in Na-rae, she's a happier girl, but in Lucy. From describing her daughter not being able to do anything, the words that she uses is like, my daughter is a perfectionist. And I can't get over it when she says my daughter is a perfectionist. It's the paradigm shift in thinking is mind-boggling, and it makes my day.
The Forsyth Farmers Market was founded in 2009 by 6 women who came together to address food access issues and provide all members of Savannah's community with a welcoming place to purchase regional produce. Working with market organizers, the Georgia Council on Developmental Disabilities launched the Mixed Greens Project to provide opportunities for people with and without disabilities to connect with one another and contribute to their community.
The mixed greens is sort of the welcoming part of the market. And then there's a little project called the Little Green Wagon Project where children are given the chance to plant a seed and then label it and then come back the next week and see if it's grown. I do notice that there are certain things that younger people seem really interested in. They seem really interested in the idea of food, in terms of the politics of food, and the idea of food as health. And I think this is part of what the Mixed Greens is about. I mean, it's been a way to take something that young people are interested in and find a way to allow that to be a framework or a mechanism for people that might not be seen as part of the big story to become part of the big story.
Johnny Smith has played a leadership role in Mixed Greens from the beginning.
I'm a volunteer at the market. I come here around 10:30. To help tear down. We don't tear down until 1 o'clock.
He walks through the park every day, and he's interested in meeting people in the community. When we began, we were looking at food access and poverty, and we were kind of looking at a specific subset of the community.
Through the Mixed Greens Project, organizers began to see the farmers market through a different lens and discovered other reasons that people get involved with the market.
Johnny's not all that interested in healthy food, but Johnny loves the community aspect of the market, and so we really started looking at, what are the reasons that people might get involved with the market? Is it food or is it community?
Most of the people I know the market, and most people know me.
And I think he's enjoyed and appreciated and realized that part of the market really depends on him. Anything that builds bridges between people that don't immediately sort of remind themselves of one another is probably a pretty good thing to be doing.
I moved in at the end of October, right before Halloween, into my own apartment. Well, this is it. It's awesome. I love it. They had to do some adaptations, like an automatic door, so I could get into my own apartment. The staff come when I need them to. I just call them on my cell phone. I have the numbers programmed into my phone. And I also have a house phone, so a landline, so I don't go over my cell phone minutes, which I already did.
I was a little afraid about isolation. I thought, boy, if she's in this apartment all by herself, doors closed, and she's in there alone, you know, how isolated is she going to be? But that was not an issue.
What I like best is going to see my friends when I want to, and I can come here when I want peace and quiet.
Amy is close with her family and gets together weekly with her brother Jake.
Amy idolizes her brother. Jake's 4 years older than her. He's just always been kind and caring and the best supported brother.
Amy works Monday through Friday and arranges her own transportation to and from work.
I do some packaging and other different kinds of assembly work.
Amy enjoys her work, but feels ready to try something more challenging.
I can see myself doing something a little bit more independently.
Amy's family has always had high expectations of her. When she was 23, Amy chose to move into a group home.
In the last year that she was at home, she was very anxious to go to a group home. And she would say things to me like, Mom, I love you, but I can't wait to get out of here. So she was ready. She was really ready to move on. You need to find a good provider. You have to do your homework. I think sometimes parents with a child with disability think that somehow magically through a social worker or somebody, information and resources are going to come to them, and it doesn't happen that way. And the way I found the best way was just talking to other parents.
Moving into a group home was a transitional process for Amy. After 3 years, she was ready to live more independently. Her provider helped her make the transition smoothly. And now, Amy has new goals.
I would like to get married to my new boyfriend, Matt.
20 years ago, I probably would have said, well, that will never happen. But now, I don't know.
He's very interactive with our family. He's had a long, difficult journey medically, but he takes it in stride, and he's kind of my hero.
Josh Harris lives with his family in Minnesota. Born prematurely and with multiple and complex medical issues, he was not expected to survive.
Joshy's had over 40 surgeries and or procedures. I think a lot of our strength and courage has come from knowing how to navigate the medical world.
Debbie and her husband Victor were told that bringing Josh home would ruin their other children.
I took that to heart, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to ruin the other boys. So then we just set about trying to make life as normal as possible.
A normal life proved difficult when Victor, a Marine, was called to active duty following 9/11. They lost their traditional medical coverage, and the complexities of navigating the healthcare and human services systems grew exponentially.
When I called the person that you're supposed to talk to when you have a complex person in your family, she told me literally, and I'll never forget the words, "We don't pay for kids who can't be fixed."
Debbie was put in an impossible position as Josh required 24-hour in-home support, which their insurance company would not provide.
You can't just ever leave him alone. He needs suctioning sometimes for hours because he has so much stuff. He has a feeding tube he's on, feedings 24 hours through a pump. There's just a lot.
The Harrises paid out of pocket for some services and rationed the supports they had. This gave Debbie 2 nights of sleep each week when a nurse came.
Having kind of a structured, solid family and community base makes all the difference. Josh has excellent receptive language, so even though he's not talking to you like we would typically be talking to each other, he's taking in everything's going on around us. He's happy. As long as his medical needs are met, he's comfortable. We make that a priority.
There you go. Can you grab on?
One of the things that you struggle with is if your child doesn't have friends, doesn't get invited to birthday parties and whatever.
Josh did have a friend throughout school, and he has a strong presence in his community.
Everybody knows Josh, and it hasn't always translated into he's got this kind of one-to-one relationship, but when we go out in the community, there are people who know Josh who don't know us. I find myself talking a lot about Josh's conditions and all the things that surround being able to keep him at home. But the one thing I don't ever really get to say is that, I'll just go downstairs and Josh will be sleeping, and I'll just look at him and I'll just think, I am the most fortunate mom in the entire world, and he is absolutely perfect. That's what I think.
They told me Chad had severe autism and that he would never speak, that he would never love his parents, and that he would never make friends. He would never ride a bike. He would never have a checkbook. He would never work. I never think Chad should have less because he has autism. And I just refuse to believe that. Chad has always been aggressive. I contribute that to Chad being really frustrated most of the time because he lived in a world that didn't make a whole lot of sense to him.
Chad's just definitely a loud personality, and he wants to be clear that he is running the show. He wants you to understand that, at least early on, it was his way or the highway.
Julie really showed me a different way of teaching Chad.
Kim Pizer, a behavioral consultant, supported Chad at school and at home as he grew older.
When Kim first came into my house, it was just topsy-turvy, paper everywhere. Chad's out of control, running around naked, wouldn't keep clothes on.
Chad became eligible for the Developmental Disabilities Waiver, which provides funding for home and community-based services. Through the waiver, Chad was able to receive supports at school, at home, and in the community with staff.
For it to be consistent in all environments, I think made a huge difference in Chad's progress.
Kelly's really surrounding Chad now with people his own age, and very age-appropriate activities has really changed the whole atmosphere.
Kelly posted an ad for a direct support professional close in age to Chad. After screening 80 applicants and interviewing 30 people, Kelly hired Justin.
Didn't know much about autism, didn't know much about disability, but met Kelly, loved Kelly, and I guess she took a liking to me too. And
I want Chad to be with people that has the same interests and the same stuff that Chad likes.
And with the help of a communication device, Chad is increasing his capacity for connecting with others.
People told her that he couldn't communicate because he couldn't exchange picture cards. Now he's using a very advanced system, a Dynavox T10.
I want go YMCA.
YMCA?
Yeah.
I'd like to see his work hours grow. Right now, he's worked 10 hours a week and it's at 4 different jobs, and he has more opportunities, but there's a cap on the service in Georgia, and so we've maxed that out. He's really a part of his community. They miss him when he's not there, and it's so good to know that people really embrace Chad. They embrace the differences, but they also see the things that they have in common with Chad.
Since 2013, Angelica Summy has worked full-time for Shaw Industries, an international leader in the manufacturing of flooring.
I feel more grown up, more mature. It gives me something to do. I learn something new almost every day.
Angelica came to work for us in 2012 through the Project Search group.
Project Search is an employment program that provides on-site training for young adults with disabilities as they transition from high school into adulthood.
I fax customers the new ship dates that are coming in. I just really like it. It's something I'm really good at.
We gave her an opportunity to have some work practice so that she could build her confidence in doing a job and really find a job that she enjoyed doing, and I think customer service was that for her.
When she came out of Project Search, we actually hired her as a full-time customer service rep. And then because we already had her trained to work with our inventory team, we brought her down and advanced her skill set, gave her a permanent job within our inventory services group. Everything we've given her, she's been able to accomplish. There's been very little that we have given her that she struggled with.
We're always looking for talented people, and she fit that description to a T.
My first dreams were get a job, get a car, and then get an apartment. I've already got 2 already down, and I'm on my 3rd one right now, just waiting for them to just work things out and see what happens.
Noah is a 5-year-old boy who is a fun-loving child.
Getting on the back line.
Yeah. Lots of different interests from hiking, walking, nature, water slides, biking.
At an early age, Noah's parents became concerned as they observed him avoid contact with other children.
He was basically inching his way back from toys. He wasn't looking at the other kids. He wasn't looking at anybody in their eyes. He just wanted to be by himself. Will he ever talk? Will he ever get off the bottle? Will he ever get off of baby food?
Kelly and her husband were worried about Noah's progress and sought supports.
Just having somebody in the house helping, it was life-changing for me because I realized as a parent, I couldn't do it all myself. He loves kindergarten. He loves his teachers. He loves to sing his songs. He loves to tell me what happens during his day, and that's just an awesome feeling for me because at some point he was not talking. How tall can your fences be? I learned the system by other parents that have older children that have autism or disabilities.
Most people have to figure out everything on their own, and a lot of people never do.
I did not learn the system by calling somebody at the state of Minnesota. Financially, I'm still learning the system because it constantly changes. We're involved in support groups.
Good job, Noah. Way to go, buddy.
And we're involved with just friends and neighbors.
Giggle, Play, Connect, a series of free community events for children of all abilities taking place at accessible playgrounds in the Twin Cities, is organized by Mary Hoff, a parent of 4 daughters, one of whom has an intellectual disability.
One of the things that we find at the play events is kids of all abilities will simply just play together. And it's that common interest and it's that bond of just pure play. Kids don't have the same attitudes, right? They're a lot more open and accepting.
I expect Noah not to be bullied at school, that he gets integrated just with regular kids, and that he makes friends, because so far, he has been integrated and he has made friends. Kids are learning from him just as much as he's learning from kids. I would say 5 years from now, I am hoping that Noah can play in the neighborhood with his friends without me having to watch him. I hope that he's invited to birthday parties.
Kelly's hopes and dreams for Noah are no different than those of most parents.
My dreams for Noah would be that he could take care of himself with supports. He could get married. He could, have a family. I mean, big dreams.
Today, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families have higher expectations than they did a generation ago, and reason to be optimistic. Because of the concerted advocacy efforts of people with disabilities, parents, professionals, and other allies, we have closed most large institutions, made our public schools more open and accessible, and created opportunities for people to live, work, and thrive in their communities. Our definition of community living has evolved from simply meaning living in the community to becoming active, participating members of our community. While there is much to celebrate, there are still tens of thousands of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities living in large institutions and nursing homes. And we recognize that in many of the programs we created in response to the conditions of large institutions, we can find today many of the same institutional features: group treatment, routinization, segregation, isolation, control, disrespect, and unproductive lives. In our evolving standards, we see that what we once considered the vanguard of freedom, inclusion, respect, and opportunity are often little more than smaller institutions. Our reality has fallen short of the promises offered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. One response to the challenges of today, workforce shortages, staff competence, and access to services, has been to call for segregated residences. In short, a return to institutions, but with pleasant-sounding names like farmsteads, campuses, and gated communities. 5 decades of research, policies, and practices have shown that institutions are not the answer, and that overwhelmingly, people have better outcomes when they live in smaller community settings that promote control and choice. With each new generation, there is a need to revisit the past and understand the decisions made to develop more liberating, respectful, and inclusive communities for all citizens.